The clock ticked past midnight. Another day gone. Exhaustion tugged at me, my eyelids heavy. I slipped under the covers, the familiar coolness of my sheets welcoming me. Sleep came quickly as it always did. A low creak broke the silence. I stirred, my mind foggy with sleep. It was probably just the house settling. I closed my eyes, trying to recapture the fleeting embrace of sleep, but something felt different, off. The creaking came again, closer this time. It seemed to be coming from under the bed. My heart pounded against my ribs. I listened intently, straining to hear over the sudden rush of blood in my ears. A soft whisper, barely audible, sent chills down my spine. I couldn't make out the words, but the voice was deep, guttural. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through my drowsiness. I was now wide awake, every sense on high alert. I held my breath, willing myself to be imagining things. The whispering stopped. Silence descended again, but it was a heavy, expectant silence. I felt a presence in the room, something watching me from the darkness. My eyes darted to the foot of the bed, where the darkness seemed to gather and swirl. My mind conjured up images of lurking shadows and unseen creatures. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying for the sun to rise, for this feeling to pass. A cold touch grazed my ankle. I gasped, scrambling back up the headboard, my eyes wide with terror. The sheets rustled as whatever was down there retreated. I didn't dare move, didn't dare breathe. Then I saw it. A hand, pale and skeletal, emerged from beneath the bed. Its long, bony fingers curled around the edge of the mattress, tapping impatiently. My blood ran cold. Section 5. Paralyzed by fear. The clock struck midnight and the room was enveloped in an eerie silence. The shadows seemed to grow longer, darker, more menacing. Terror rooted me to the spot. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing like a drum in the stillness. I could feel the cold sweat trickling down my back, my breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps. My mind screamed at me to run, to do something, but my body refused to obey. It was as if I was trapped in a nightmare, my limbs heavy and unresponsive. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, but I was frozen, a prisoner of my own fear. I watched, horrified, as the hand slowly inched closer, its touch sending shivers down my spine. The air grew colder, and I could see my breath misting in front of me. The hand was pale, almost skeletal, its fingers long and bony, reaching out with a deliberate, terrifying slowness. The whispering started again, closer now, more insistent. It was a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, a low, guttural growl that filled the room. The words were unintelligible, but the intent was clear. It was a call, a summons that I could not ignore. It was a low, guttural growl, filled with an unspeakable hunger. The eyes glowed in the darkness, two pinpricks of malevolent light that seemed to pierce through me. The mouth moved, forming words that I could not understand, but the tone was unmistakable. It was a threat, a promise of something terrible to come. I knew then that I was in grave danger, but I was helpless to stop whatever was coming for me. The presence loomed closer, its shadow enveloping me, and I could feel the weight of its malevolence pressing down on me. My mind raced, searching for a way out, but there was none. I was trapped, paralyzed by fear, and there was no escape from the darkness that surrounded me. Section 6. The Hand That Beckons. The hand reached the top of the mattress and paused, its bony fingers flexing as if testing the air. Then it slowly began to crawl towards me, its cold, clammy touch leaving a trail of goosebumps in its wake. Each movement sent waves of terror crashing over me. My voice was gone, stolen by the sheer horror of the situation. I was trapped at the mercy of whatever lurked beneath my bed. Section 7. A desperate struggle. Adrenaline surged through me, breaking the paralysis that had gripped me. I kicked out blindly, my foot connecting with something solid. A guttural roar erupted from beneath the bed, shaking the room. I scrambled out of bed, stumbling back until my back hit the wall. My hand frantically searched for the light switch, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Section 8. Into the Abyss. The light flickered on, bathing the room in a warm, familiar glow. I stared at the bed, my breath catching in my throat. The hand was gone. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. Beneath the bed, a dark, gaping hole seemed to stare back at me. It wasn't there before. It was as if the darkness itself had opened up, swallowing whatever had been lurking beneath my bed. Section 9. The Face of Terror. This is a tale that delves into the deepest recesses of fear, where the unknown lurks and the shadows whisper secrets. Curiosity warred with fear. Slowly, cautiously, I approached the edge of the abyss. Each step felt like an eternity, my heart pounding louder with every inch closer. The darkness seemed to pulse, alive with unseen threats. A faint, sweet smell wafted up from the depths, making my stomach churn. It was a sickly sweet scent, like decaying flowers mixed with something far more sinister. The air grew thicker, almost suffocating as I drew nearer. I leaned in, trying to see what lay hidden in the shadows. My eyes strained against the darkness, trying to pierce the veil that obscured whatever lay beneath. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of my own ragged breathing. Two eyes, glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light, blinked up at me. They were not the eyes of any creature I had ever seen, but something far more ancient and malevolent. They seemed to bore into my soul, reading my deepest fears. A face, contorted in a silent scream, materialized from the darkness. It was a visage of pure agony, twisted and deformed, as if it had been trapped in eternal suffering. The sight of it sent a chill down my spine, freezing me in place. It was a face frozen in eternal torment, and it was looking directly at me. Its eyes, those haunting, glowing orbs, seemed to plead for release, yet there was no escape from its endless nightmare. I could feel its pain, its despair, as if it were my own. The face of terror, a reflection of the darkest corners of the human psyche, stared back at me, unblinking and relentless. Section 10. An Unending Nightmare. The darkness enveloped me, a suffocating blanket that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Every corner of the room was filled with shadows that danced and twisted, creating grotesque shapes that played tricks on my mind. I recoiled in horror, scrambling back until I hit the wall again. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a deafening drum that echoed in the silence. The cold, hard surface of the wall was a stark contrast to the chaotic terror that gripped me. The face, the eyes, the unspeakable horror of it all was seared into my mind. Those eyes, wide and unblinking, seemed to bore into my very soul, leaving me paralyzed with fear. The grotesque features of the face twisted into a macabre grin, a sight so horrifying that it felt like my mind was being torn apart. I knew then that sleep would never come again, not fully, not without the image of that face haunting my every waking moment. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see it lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce. The nights became endless vigils, my mind racing with thoughts of the terror that awaited me in the darkness. The whole remained, a constant reminder of the terror that lurked just beyond the veil of reality. It was a portal to another world, a world where nightmares were born and thrived. I could feel its presence, a malevolent force that seemed to reach out and touch me, sending shivers down my spine. And as the sun began to rise, casting long shadows across the room, the terror did not dissipate. Instead, it seemed to grow stronger, feeding off the light and the hope that came with it. The shadows stretched and twisted, creating new horrors that my mind could barely comprehend. I was left with the chilling realization: the hand was just the beginning. There was more, much more, lurking in the darkness, waiting to be discovered. The face, the eyes, the hole in the wall. They were all part of a larger, more terrifying reality that I was only beginning to understand. The nightmare was far from over, and I knew that I would never be free from its grasp.